All right, so in this video, we are going to solve the system of inequalities, which means we want to see the overlap between the inequalities, what is going to be our solution. So it's important that we go through, make sure our inequalities are in slope-intercept form. We shade the correct boundary. We do that for both inequalities. And then again, we consider the overlap, the solution for the system of inequalities. Over here, some important key points. Remember, this is slope-intercept form. It's y equals mx plus b. M being the slope, B being the y-intercept. For slope, we know that it's rise over run, so that's going to tell me my direction that I'm going to go with my line. Anytime that I have a line and it's positive, it's going to go in the right direction. It's going to be increasing towards the right. If I have a negative slope, it's going to be increasing but facing to the left side. So let's go ahead and start with our first system of inequality. So I've already wrote it out here. I need to see if it's in slope-intercept form. So I'm looking here and looking back over here. I notice that it is not in slope-intercept form. So I need to change it first before I even start to graph. And so I have x minus 2y less than 6. I want y by itself on the left side. So first thing I'm going to do is take the x and I'm going to bring it over like we're doing two-step equations. So right now it's positive, so we need to take it to the other side. I'm going to make it negative. So I'm going to subtract. Negative and subtraction is the same thing. This is going to cancel out. I'm left with negative 2y less than negative x, and I still have that positive 6 over here. So if you notice, I have a coefficient attached to the y. So what I'm going to do is, since it's multiplication right now, I'm going to do the opposite, which is to divide negative 2 by all of the terms. So I'm going to divide here by negative 2 and also on the other side. So we know that this is going to cancel out. That's just 1. So y less than, here it's going to be a positive, and negative with a negative makes a positive. And remember, there's an invisible 1 in front of the x. So really, it's 1/2 x, and then I have a positive 6 divided by a negative 2, which makes a negative 3. So this is the inequality that I am going to use when I am graphing. It's in slope-intercept form. So this is going to be the starting point, my y-intercept. This is going to be the direction, the slope here, where I'm going with my line. So over here on the graph, on the x-axis, I'm going to find negative 3. Remember, that's my starting point. So I'm going to go ahead and graph negative 3. And then since my slope is 1/2 x, that means I'm going to rise up 1 and I'm going to go over to the right 2 because it's positive. So 1 and then over 1, 2. That's my first point. Rise up 1 and then over 2. So it's very important that you use a ruler to connect your points once you have at least 2 graphs. For me, it's going to be a little bit difficult since I'm on this computer screen, but I am going to draw a line through it. Also, what's important is that anytime I have less than or greater than, it's going to be a dotted line. Anytime that I have greater than or less than, or greater than or equal to or less than or equal to, it's going to be a solid line. So I already know that my line is going to be dotted, which means that the solution is not going to, the inequality is not going to be included in the solution. So my line here is dotted, and I'm still going to draw arrows to make sure that it represents a line. The next step is, where am I going to shade? Am I going to shade above the line or below the line? So what I'm going to do is use 0, 0 as a test point. So I'm going to plug in 0 for the y and 0 for the x to see if that makes the inequality true. If it does, I'm going to shade where 0, 0 is. If it's false, I'm going to shade where 0, 0 is not. So let's go ahead and look at this same inequality, but plug in 0, 0 as our test point. So 0 less than 1/2 times 0, and then minus 3. So on the left is equal to 0, less than 1/2 times 0 is 0, and then I'm subtracting 3, so it's still left with negative 3. So if I would read this as 0 less than negative 3, that's obviously false. 0 is greater than negative 3. So since it's false, I am not going to shade where the area of 0, 0 is not going to be included in my solution. So I'm going to shade below the line. So that means that all of these solutions are included in my inequality. So I'm done with the first inequality. So I need to do the same steps, but with my second inequality over here. So I'm going to switch colors. All right, so first thing, remember I need to make sure it's in slope-intercept form. I'm gonna look here and then look back. Yes, my y is already isolated. I have my slope and I have my y-intercept. So I'm good to go. So I'm going to start, remember here, I'm gonna start with the y-intercept, so it's +5. So I'm gonna start here at +5. And so if you notice, it's -3 and +2. So since it's negative, remember I'm gonna go in this direction here. So that means I'm gonna actually go down 3, but over to the right 2 because it's negative. So I'm gonna go down 3, 1, 2, 3, and then over 2, 1, 2. Same thing, 1, 2, 3, and then over 2, 1, 2, right here. And then I'm gonna think about, okay, is my line gonna be solid or dotted? Since it's less than or equal to, that means that the inequality is included, and so my line this time is gonna be solid. So remember to use a ruler to draw your line so you can make sure that you get all the points. And then remember, my next step is going to be, is 0, 0 included? Where am I gonna shade, above or below the line? So same thing that I did with the first one, I'm gonna do the same thing with the second one. I'm gonna plug in 0, 0 for both y and x. So 0 less than or equal to -3/2 times 0 plus 5. The left side is equal to 0. -3/2 times 0 is 0, plus 5 is 5. So I would read that as 0 is less than or equal to 5. And so yes, that is true. 0 is less than 5, so I'm gonna put true. And that means that I'm gonna shade where 0, 0 is. So remember 0, 0 is over here, it's below the line, so I'm gonna shade all of this area here. And so my last 2 steps is to see where is the boundary that they overlap, what are some ordered pairs that fall into that boundary. So where they overlap would be this section here, and I'm gonna circle it. So this entire section is gonna be the solution for the system of inequalities. And some ordered pairs that fit into the solution, I would say 3 and -5. And even 6 and -3. So this, again, this overlap here is my solution. These are some ordered pairs. We could obviously keep going.